He's a bona fide superstar who comes from what can only be described as pro wrestling royalty.
You can look at it as it's pressure, or you can almost look at it as if it's just the biggest challenge ever presented.
Right now, he's at the very top of his field, but
the fear is, I don't want it to end, right? You never want the party to end.
Because being at the top of the WWE is a feeling that few will ever truly understand.
I don't think the average person, and I don't think the biggest superstar, I don't really think anybody can be prepared for walking out in front of 80,000 plus people.
WWE superstar, the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes on the Pulse.
Guys, welcome to The Pulse. I feel like I say every week that I'm excited about the guest, but this one's different. I say that from time to time. I was, like so many people watching, the person who came up watching WWE. I was a little delusional. I thought I was going to be a WWE superstar. But we have one who actually is, from being really born into the business to the highest level possible in the WWE. The American Nightmare. So we do like the whole opening promo and stuff.
The whoa? The whoa? Yeah, you got that music. I've gotten used to it now. The fans all like to say whoa every time it hits, and I have to do it with them. Love it.
Cody Rhodes, welcome to The Pulse.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. You could still be a WWE superstar.
No, that ship sailed, man.
No, you're a Pulse superstar.
I'll take that.
Paul, but you could always, it's never sailed, you know. It's never sailed. If you ever want to get in there, man, I encourage everybody at all times.
I started off saying that you were kind of born into this. And for some of the people, like obviously the fans today know you and your family and your legacy. But walk us through that. Like, you literally were born into the business.
First memory of all time, the youngest I was my dad brought me to WrestleMania in Toronto. And it was his only WrestleMania he did with WWE. And he brought me there and he put me on the mat. I remember seeing the turnbuckle. It was yellow and blue, the classic, at the time, WWF logo. And that was the first actual memory I had at a WrestleMania. And it was normal for me my whole life. My first couple of babysitters at shows were Sherry Martel, Scary Sherry, absolute legend, WWE Hall of Famer, and Sting. And that was just normal. They just keep an eye on me, and even Stunning Steve Austin, long before he became Stone Cold, would just keep an eye on me in the locker room, which I should have never been in the locker room, but it's like my dad would just leave me. And I'd get my backstage pass, and I'd go back and forth. I'd sit out and watch it, and it was just, to me, it was normal. But yeah, this is what I always was around. There was no way I was ever going to do anything else.
So it really was. You knew it even then. At some point, you realized it's extraordinary. But by then, I've read somewhere, you were training when you were 12.
I remember one time my dad gave somebody their payoff in a paper lunch sack, and it was just stacks, as the kids call them now, of cash. And I thought, I don't want to do anything else. This is way cooler than whatever your guidance counselor was suggesting at the time. But I got into amateur wrestling at 8 because that was something my dad didn't do. He was big TV, suspension of disbelief type wrestler, and then amateur wrestling, I found out the hard way, is very different. Okay. But it became my sport and my foundation because today you have to have those skills. You have to be an athlete. WWE is recruiting on the highest level of athletes now, and it was very helpful.
You obviously had to be an athlete then, but it was a lot of performance. And now, you see people who are doing things that even watching on TV, you're like, that guy just fell off a cage that's 25 feet in the air. Growing up through that, when did that kind of transition into, I just can't be the best guy or performance or promo, I've got to be an elite level athlete?
The shift in it all has made it actually really difficult for us in the best of ways. Very challenging is a better way to put it. Very challenging for us because, like you said, you can't just be good at one thing anymore. My dad was a really great interview, a really great promo, to the degree that most people remember these promos and these interviews. They don't really remember the matches so much.
Brother, I am bad and they know I'm bad. The love that was given me, and this time I will repay you now, because I will be the next world's heavyweight champion.
Today you have to check almost every box.
Was there ever a point where it wasn't legacy and, oh, this is really cool that my dad and my family does this, and it was just extra pressure? It is being LeBron James' son on the basketball court is tough.
It's really difficult in terms of, I look at kind of the Mount Rushmores of sports entertainment and wrestling, and there's these dads out there, Rock's daughter, for example, she's at NXT. Ric Flair's daughter, Charlotte, she's a WWE superstar. Absolutely, just a wonderful legacy and career she's had on her own. They're good examples of, you can look at it as it's pressure, or you can almost look at it as if it's just the biggest challenge ever presented. It's a bigger challenge than your day-to-day would be. It's your task is to be better than they were, which is a wild statement and a wild thing to say, but it's your task if you choose to take it up. And for me, I always looked at it that way. I never was really burdened by the pressure. I never was really bothered by if you meet older fans or if they know him and they don't know you. It never really bothered me, especially now in his passing. It's kind of welcomed, like when you meet an older fan that's all they want to talk about, like, oh, cool, yeah.
You come in, you're in the business, you're doing well. So that's obviously a level of success. Then you're headlining WrestleMania. You're and likely perhaps to do it again.
That'd be amazing.
You're beating up Brock Lesnar. I think I read someplace, and there are people here who can correct me if I'm wrong, the highest selling merchandise, or among the top selling.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Right?
That's a good little stat there.
Do you ever allow yourself the chance to kind of sit back and go, like, whoa, like I'm headlining this, those goals, and I'm sure there are more, but those goals, you got to, you did all of that.
I do try to stay really present. And I have to kind of credit my wife. We've had these moments where it's hit me that for example, you mentioned headlining WrestleMania. That's the hardest thing to do in the whole sports entertainment pro wrestling game, is even getting that match. I mean, it's the match. There's 2 nights of WrestleMania, going into now WrestleMania 40, celebrating 40 years of WWE. That's the one that I really felt like that's a great feather in my cap. And I did try to celebrate that one, and I did try to be present with it. But also the fear, and this is like the high we get from being in front of all these fans and the excitement, and like you mentioned, selling all this merchandise. The fear is, I don't want it to end, right? You never want the party to end. There's kind of this old wrestler lore where if you have this great segment, say you had a great crowd and they were just going nuts or whatever it was, great moment, that you don't want to leave. You don't even want to get out of your gear. You hang out in your gear longer, you're in the locker room longer, you're just kind of in it. And I feel like that's been me every show.
Coming up, after years of climbing through the ranks, what it felt like to finally reach the top.
I remember I started yelling to the fans, hey, we made it. I almost get emotional thinking about that. So I'm yelling at them, we made it, we made it.
This is the greatest live event in entertainment.
That's a Philly day.
WrestleMania, obviously coming to Philadelphia, to the Link in April. Tickets available now. And I was looking into WrestleMania, and I kind of want to you were talking about that feeling, but kind of walk us through that. Because WrestleMania does Super Bowl type things.
Sure.
$200+ million economic impact to Philadelphia. 2 days now, $1.2 billion or something like that over the last several years. These are historic events that WrestleMania is involved in. And you're walking out to, at the Link, 100,000 people.
Yeah.
Can the average person who realized they didn't want to be a wrestler even understand the feeling of walking out to that energy?
I don't think the average person, and I don't think the biggest superstar, I don't really think anybody can be prepared for walking out in front of 80,000 plus people. And this happens not just one night, 2 nights that we do this in a row, 2 nights of WrestleMania. I don't think anyone can be prepared for that. The only person I'd say who's prepared for that is the gentleman that I wrestled at WrestleMania 39 in SoFi in the main event of WrestleMania last year was Roman Reigns. And the reason I say that is because Roman's done it 7 times. I think 8 maybe. That was my first.
Okay.
And I actually remember I'm walking in the ring. There's 80,000 people. All the pyro's going off. It's a completely different set. It was just this sea of humanity. I remember I started yelling to the fans, "Hey, we made it." I almost get emotional thinking about that. So I'm yelling at them, "We made it, we made it." But yeah, no, I wasn't ready for it, to answer your question. And that was my response, was just yelling that we made it to all the fans. And that still, I wouldn't have changed anything about it. It was special.
That was your first.
Mm-hmm.
You know, God willing, this will be your second to be potentially headlining WrestleMania. Do you think the second one will be better? Like, now you kind of get the chance perhaps to enjoy it.
Well, you've been very nice, and the reality was at WrestleMania 39, in the biggest main event of WrestleMania history, I didn't win. I did not win the match. I lost, and I'm not complaining. I'm not going to get into the specifics of the loss. But all I learned from it really was, here it is, the hardest match to get. It's like getting elected president in our industry, to be in the last match of the year, WrestleMania main event. All I learned was, I need to get back. I need to get back, and I need to win this time. So to answer your question, I would be honored beyond belief, not just to be in the main event of WrestleMania again, but to be in the main event of WrestleMania 40, because it's 40 years of WWE, 40 years of sports entertainment, and Philly gets the 40th, which is just great and wonderful. So I couldn't think anything better.
You talk about Philly. I read someplace that you like Philly is one
Love
of your
it.
favorite places to come.
So Philadelphia is known for there are certain wrestling markets that the reaction might be a little different.
We're different.
They don't really like if you're just a clean-cut good guy. It's just something about some Philly crowds, just, you know what, John Cena, you're good, you're cool, but I don't know how we feel about you in Philly. It's like a contrarian approach, and then it spreads amongst the fans, where it's like, oh, we're booing this guy? Yes, we're different. And it's just, you can't. The cool thing about it is you can't count on it being like every other city. It's going to be different. So it's my favorite place to wrestle, and the reason why is because we did this Money in the Bank where it was all guys who had never won the world title before. And it was on a show that had a Money in the Bank match with all guys who had been world champions. So internally, behind the scenes, we had been dubbed the losers Money in the Bank. And at the time, I was just a cheesy good guy who was kind of climbing the ranks and had been toyed around and up and down, had a unique career. I didn't learn quickly, a slow learner. But the city just came alive for me. They wanted me to win this match. The story became about, I'd been in so many Money in the Banks and hadn't won. This was going to be the one that I got.
The Cody chants ringing throughout the Wells Fargo Center.
But it was lightning in a bottle, and I never forgot it. And I remember thinking, like, that's I'm making that a hometown for me. My real hometown's Atlanta. That's my hometown. And then I made Philly like a second hometown. Because after that, it was always the same. They just had a respect. I think that's what it is. Philly fans have a respect. If they've seen you come and they've seen the battle.
Put in the work.
Exactly. There's a respect. And that's not every city. So that's why I always loved it. Anytime I heard we were going to that arena or being in the sports complex over there, never could have imagined that heading to the link and, over 80,000 people, close to 100,000 people, 2 nights in a row. Perfect city for it.
Next on The Pulse, he chose to risk his health to keep wrestling. But why?
And I think the reason I, more than anything, wanted to do it is at the time I'd never connected with the fans like I was connecting. So I wasn't going to lose that.
Discolored, torn pectoral muscle on the right side.
That is as gruesome of an injury as I've ever seen from an active competitor.
You have had your nose broken in a match. Somebody hit you with a ring bell and split your head open.
Yeah.
My editor and director, who's sitting off camera right now, showed me a picture of your entire side.
Yeah.
Black and blue. Where you actually wrestled with a completely torn pectoral muscle. So my first question is why?
Yeah.
My second is you guys are built different. That's a little crazy.
I don't know why I did it. So the week before I tore it, and there's a 5-day period between me and Seth Rollins were competing at a pay-per-view, and we were the main event in Chicago at Hell in a Cell, and we were the main story going into it. Also, they had made me this giant. I was the billboard. I was on the chair, just me. That's really rare. Usually got other, different WWE superstars on there, and I just couldn't believe it. Here I am. I made it to the main event after all of this, and I've torn my pec. What do we do? The normal thing is you do some fun angle, some fun segment, and that somebody gets credit for hurting you, even though it was me who hurt myself, whatever it may be. And then you're out and you're gone. You're out of sight. I didn't want that. I wanted to give them something to remember me by. And I also felt like I'm okay. But it just looked so bad, and it was spreading like it was like a curse in the blood. Like it was like Dumbledore's arm from the Harry Potter series. It was getting worse and worse and worse. And by the time we got there, very few people had seen it when I took the jacket off. And I took the jacket off. It's one of the most uncomfortable feelings I've ever felt in an arena, to the point where I thought maybe they think, oh, this is cool. He's fighting through the pain. Most people, I think, were just floored that we were doing it, and then just kind of like, all right. And then we went like 25 minutes. I remember somebody saying like, y'all don't have to wrestle all night, just. And then we put in like a very long stretch of a match and did a lot of crazy stuff. But yeah, it was. I tell my students at my little school, the Nightmare Factory, I tell them, you'll always work hurt, but don't work injured. Never work injured. When you're injured, that's different. I said that the week before I went and did it, and there's no way for me to justify it to them anymore. I'm just a complete hypocrite. But I wanted them to remember something by. But yeah, it's not.
I wanted the moment.
Yeah.
It worked for it.
And I think the reason I, more than anything, wanted to do it is at the time I'd never connected with the fans like I was connecting. So I wasn't gonna lose that. No way. I just couldn't fathom it.
Coming up, when you're one of the biggest stars of an internationally successful company, but still remain humble.
For me, using your voice is a reminder of how lucky we really all are. I'm so lucky to have this gig, so incredibly lucky.
Scoop slam! SoFi is rumbling. Michael Cole, it feels like we are on the precipice of history. Oh, Cody Cutter! Cover for the title! For the title! Look at the leg! Oh my God, he kicked out at 2!
WrestleMania 40 coming to Philly, your favorite wrestling city. I don't know that we have to tell people why they should come. Like it's probably sold out now if tickets are just on sale. But tell them why the 40th anniversary of WrestleMania is so important.
If you are a absolute fan of WWE, then you already know you're going to go to WrestleMania. You're going to travel internationally. You're going to make it work, whatever. If you're somebody who was a fan and you hear about it coming, I would encourage you to show up and be there, because WrestleMania is the best way to put your foot back in the water. It really is. It's the best thing that we do all year. It's the best thing that all of sports entertainment and wrestling has. And it aims to be the best wrestling show, best sports entertainment show ever. It's the good stuff. It really is. It's the good stuff. It's the magic of sports entertainment and wrestling and the suspension of disbelief. What's real? What isn't? All of it. It's just right there in the best possible package. And this one in particular is extremely special because this is 40 years. 40 years, going back all the way to MSG for the very first WrestleMania. That was the biggest gamble in the business at the time. And now it's just a guaranteed ticket, but it's 40 years, so it will celebrate every generation.
I've seen different charitable events. WWE in general, but you specifically do a lot of different things with charity, reaching out to the community, doing all of that. When you hear Use Your Voice for Good, what does that mean for you?
I have always been of the thought that if you get just a modicum of fame from sports entertainment, or if you become a mega household name like a John Cena perhaps, it is the best thing you can ever do to to go out there and use your voice. In a lot of cases, I just put together, I think WWE, a group in Detroit, we put together 62,000 meals. 62,000 meals for different food banks in the city of Detroit, using your hands as well. And it's the best possible thing. And for me, using your voice is a reminder of how lucky we really all are. How I'm so lucky to have this gig, so incredibly lucky. That's the best possible thing we can do. Using your voice is, I feel, mandatory for someone who's been given as much great stuff as I have been given.
Guys, thank you so much for watching The Pulse today with Cody Rhodes. I've started to say, and I sincerely mean, that I really enjoy having people in, but for me, I'm just enjoying talking to people that I've admired from afar or industries that I'm a fan of. And when you find out that they're actually quality people, it's that much better. So I hope that you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. If you'd like to listen to the entire podcast, you can do that all places where podcasts are available. There's normally some nuggets that didn't make it to air that you may enjoy listening to. Just hit subscribe and get the notification. I leave you as I always do, reminding you whenever you can, use your voice for good, and have a good one.